What the system does, it doesn't want us to understand the true nature of the I. From cradle to grave, a human life is a download of perceptual programming. That's what it is. And they test you, if you've accepted that level of reality, nature of reality, by exams. And then the media is pounding out the same version of reality. Mainstream science and mainstream medicine is pounding out the same. And we are consciousness, and the consciousness is eternal. It's indestructible. It just goes on. And partake of something called ayahuasca. You take it, and then it takes about an hour to kick in. And what happens is, when you close your eyes, you're in another reality. But when you open your eyes, you're back in this one. And what happened in that 5 hours is this female voice started to explain the nature of physical reality and how it's all an illusion, a holographic, illusory physical illusion, and how it's just basically an experience, and we are consciousness, and the consciousness is eternal, it's indestructible, it just goes on. And I came back to Britain, and I started researching mainstream science and quantum physics, and I found that science had sussed what this voice had told me. Well, it transformed everything, because, you know, most people, and the system does this on purpose. I've written at length about this, how the system does it from cradle to grave. From cradle to grave, a human life is a download of perceptual programming. That's what it is. The education system is simply downloading to the young population a perception of reality. And they test you, if you've accepted that level of reality, nature of reality, by exams. And then the media is pounding out the same version of reality. Mainstream science and mainstream medicine is pounding out the same. And you start to realize that what the system does, it doesn't want us to understand the true nature of the I. Because I talk from my own experience. Once you know the true nature of the I, forget the body, forget form. I am a state of being aware. And I can choose to be that aware. I'm just little me. I have no power. What can I do? Or we can choose to be as aware as we want to be. What the system wants us to do is to self-identify with the body. It wants us to self-identify the I with my name, my race, my sexuality. These labels, they're labels. Labels that people self-identify with, they are not who we are, they are what we are experiencing. And what's experiencing those lives, those situations, those labels, is the true I, consciousness. By the way, the labels are getting subdivided and subdivided and subdivided. I mean, how long is that bloody list of letters going to get? It goes on for frickin' ever. So when you self-identify with your label, as opposed to that being your experience, your sense of self and possibility contract to that label. But when you self-identify with being the consciousness that's having the experience, the consciousness that moves on at what we call death, then your sense of self, your sense of power, your sense of potential absolutely explodes. And life becomes much more of an adventure. You chill more because you know it's just a temporary experience on the road of forever. Imagine Wi-Fi and a computer. You've got a Wi-Fi field, which is information in a radiation field. The computer locks into that field, depending how it's encoded and where the mouse takes it, it locks into this part of the field or that part of the field or that part of the field. And depending what it locks into, it decodes that onto the screen. But only on the screen. That's the only place the internet exists in that form. Everywhere else, it's Wi-Fi radiation fields and electronic codes. And the human body, it's the same principle. We have what I call cosmic Wi-Fi. A more technical way of describing it is the quantum field of possibility and probability. This is a biological computer. And this Wi-Fi field, it's information in waveform. Now look how the five senses work. The five senses, and the ears are classic with sound waves, it turns it into electrical information, it communicates it to the brain, and the brain decodes it into holographic digital information. And that holographic digital information is this world we experience as outside of us. It's not outside of us, it's in here. Just as the internet is inside the computer, we just observe it on the screen. What you do when you're on a computer, you are making decisions through your perceptions of where you want to go on the internet. So you are, by where you go, dictating what goes on the screen. Everything that we think, every thought, every emotional state is broadcast as a frequency. Everything's a frequency. Hate is a certain frequency. Love is a very different frequency. Depression is one frequency. And you know, when people are in states of depression and anxiety, what do they say? Oh, I feel so heavy today. Why? Because those frequencies are very low and slow, and their energetic field starts to vibrate very slowly, and it enters a much more dense state, and we feel it as, I'm feeling heavy today. And then one day we wake up, we're full of joy. And what do people say? Oh, I feel so light today. Because the positive emotions and thoughts of love, of joy, are very fast frequencies, and therefore you feel light. You literally do. So our perceptions, whether we believe ourselves to be little me or infinite me, they are vastly different bands of frequency. So if you're in a perception of I'm little me, I have no power, then you are broadcasting, operating on a very narrow band and low frequency band of perception. And that is interacting with the cosmic Wi-Fi, the quantum field of possibility and probability within that band. And you will create a feedback loop in which you will experience your own perceptions. Little me perception becomes little me life. When you see yourself in very limited label terms, you are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy through this feedback loop where your perceptions are interacting with possibility and creating an experience of your perceptions. When you break out of that and you self-identify the I to be the consciousness that's having the experience, the very fact that you have expanded your self-identity, then that very expansion of self-identity creates an expansion of consciousness. And now you are interacting with the quantum field of possibility and probability, cosmic Wi-Fi as I call it, in a much more expanded way and on a much more high frequency. And that means that you are able to tap in to a vastly greater scale of possibility and probability. And your life starts to change. And I know this from my own life, and I know it from talking to other people who've been through this process. And you know, it's not sitting cross-legged on a mountain. It's simply saying, I am not my labels, I am the consciousness having them. Infinite awareness having them. They are my experiences, they're not me. You'll meet someone in a situation where you'd say, what's the statistical chances of this? And life becomes an adventure because amazing things are happening to you. Realize that actually we're picking out of the cosmic internet through our perceptions, our experiences. We'd realize that instead of having to strive for them, we just attract them. The body decodes this reality and also allows us to interact with other realities. DNA, for instance, is a receiver-transmitter. It's an antenna. This is well known now, the cutting edge of science. Just to give you an idea of how illusory this world is, according to mainstream science, the electromagnetic spectrum is 0.005% of what exists in the universe. And visible light, which is the only frequency band that we can see, is a smear of the 0.005%. We're basically blind. Everything beyond it we can't see, not because it's not there, but because we are tuned to a certain channel, like a television channel, and we can't see beyond it.